Hi class, we're doing part 3 of the frog dissection. So last we looked at the frog's digestive system. Here's its stomach. Usually, this is a very enlarged stomach. Usually they're not nearly this big in the frogs, but this one had been eaten a lot before it died. You still see a few beetle shells and stuff. But I took it out, I cut it out, and in here in the frog you can see. So here's where I cut it, right from there. It had been connected like that. So here you can see the top part of the stomach, the bottom part of the esophagus. So if I take this blunt probe and I put it in the esophagus, then it'll come up out of the throat where the esophagus starts, up in the back of the throat. So that's kind of neat. All right, a couple things I'd like to point out from this view. Now that I've removed the stomach and the liver, here's one of the frog's lungs. That's a lung, and this is a lung. Now they're not really spongy. Usually they're pretty spongy and flexible, kind of like a plastic bag sort of. But I don't know. This frog, maybe it's been preserved really long or something. But they're kind of rigid here. But usually they're pretty spongy, and you can kind of move them around a little bit. But there's one lung. There's another lung. And if we followed those up, we would lead from the inside of the lungs. We lead up into, again, this part of the mouth. Right there is the opening that goes down into the lungs. So maybe I could follow that along. Yeah, there's that, and it would lead down in the lung. All right. So there's my probe is in that lung. Pretty neat. Okay, I want to point out a couple more things that are deep down, a couple organs called the kidneys. And here is one kidney. Here is the other kidney. They're kind of dark shaped. They're right along the midline of the frog's spine. I'll kind of pull them apart here so you can see them. So here's one kidney. It kind of looks like a little skinny brownish tan leech. Here's the other kidney, and this is these organs play an important role in keeping the blood good and clean. The kidneys, they filter our blood, so they get all the wastes out of our blood and take those wastes down a couple of tubes down to our bladder, and in the bladder is where we can't see the bladder in here. Oh, here it is actually. That's part of the bladder right there. So then the bladder stores the urine. So the urine used to be just part of our blood, and then when the blood goes in the kidneys separate the wastes from the good blood. They send the good blood back into the bloodstream, and then the wastes, all the extra water and extra salts and some nitrogen waste and stuff like that, they go out a different tube of the kidney down into the bladder, and then the bladder stores it until the frog or the person is ready to get rid of it. Those kidneys are part of the excretory system. If I peel those out of the way, we see a couple of we see a good view of the frog's spine. All right, so there's the spine of the frog, its backbone. So inside the backbone is something very important. It's called our spinal cord, and that's sends messages, connects our brain to all the other nerves in our body. That's our spinal cord, and that gets extra protection from our spine. Okay, one more thing I'll show in the frog. I'm just going to cut down through the leg muscle here, and cut a little bit around it, and find the femur, the leg bone, the thigh bone. All right, right, so they're just removing a little bit of frog leg meat to get down to the femur, the big long bone, part of the skeletal system. So you see that right here is the femur. Let's try to get some of that leg meat out of the way. Right there. All right, here's his knee. You see some of the tendons and ligaments in there, attaching muscle to bone and bone to bone. So anyways, there's the frog dissection. All right, we looked at the external anatomy. We looked at some stuff in the mouth. We looked at some of the internal organs. We saw the liver. Here's the liver still there. The gallbladder was on the underside of the liver. It's still attached right there. That little pouch there. The heart is still in the frog. Did not take that out yet. The stomach was really neat. Had a bunch of cricket parts in it, and the stomach is obviously part of the digestive system. The stomach gets narrower, and then it turns into this tube. We call that tube the beginning of the small intestine. The rest of the small intestine is right there in between my thumbs, and then the small intestine finishes and squeezes food into the large intestine. So here's a bunch of partially digested food and poop and stuff. So here I'm going to squeeze out some of that. I feel another cricket or a beetle or something, beetle shell right there. Yeah, that was a hard beetle shell right there. And then we saw a couple of lungs. And then we saw the kidneys of this frog. And we cut into the leg muscle and saw the femur bone. That was kind of neat. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you guys are hanging in there with this online schooling that we're trying, and I hope you enjoyed watching the frog get dissected. All right, take care, guys. We'll see you later.